Good afternoon, everyone. Again, on behalf of the University of Tulsa, welcome to the BOK Center, first and second rounds of the NCAA. I'll repeat the housekeeping details for the afternoon session of 4 teams. Please silence your cell phones if you haven't done so already. Each time we introduce a new dais, please identify yourself and your affiliation the first time you ask a question to the head coach or student athletes. Please wait until one of our 2 mic holders, raise your hands please, they're there for you, to get to you, to get in the rotation, just get their attention or mine. If you have a follow-up question, let them know so she stays with you. There is no flash photography or recording of any kind, including cell phone and tablet use. That is not permitted. Today's sessions are 15 minutes long for each group of student athletes and head coach. There'll be a 15-minute break in between schools. We are being transcribed by ASAP Sports. And we'll have student athletes for Houston first. The University of Houston Cougars are number 3 in the Midwest region. They are the American Athletic Conference regular season champions. They'll play number 14 Georgia State in Friday's 3rd game at 6:20. The head coach is Kelvin Sampson. He'll replace these guys in the dais when they're finished. The men's basketball contact is Jeff Conrad. And we are open for business. First question's right here. Thank you.
What's up, guys? Hey, Galen, earlier this week you had mentioned about the difference this time around from last year. You were the newcomers. Do you have like an example of what's different or what the locker room is like from last year being the first time in a decade to now making your second one in a row?
Excuse me. Just like the guys who've never been to the NCAA tournament, they were asking us, like, oh, what are we about to do now? What are we about to do now? We had all the answers, you know what I mean? Just this and then the open practice, it was going to be, they were wondering how many people were going to be there. Just all the excitement, the questions that we had last year, we knew the answers to. So I just think we just know what to expect.
The front row also. Go him first and then the front row.
Yeah, Jerome Solomon with the Houston Chronicle. Either one of you. You guys are such a big favorite on paper, and you're the highest ranked seed against a team that most would say have no chance. Has the coach addressed the idea that anything can happen in this tournament, and what are your thoughts on being such a big favorite?
Corey, please.
I mean, I just really feel like paying attention to, like, what's going on media, like who's favored to do what. I mean, that never really, like, it doesn't resonate with us anyway. I mean, we're always conscious of just coming out, playing hard, and just playing Cougar basketball. I mean, it doesn't matter what the opponent is, what their seeding is, how big the name is, who's on their team. It just matters how hard we play and how intense we come out.
Questions here. Then we have 2 back there. Go.
Lainey Fritz, KPRC. A big point of emphasis has been made on Georgia State and their ability to shoot the 3. But you guys also are really good at defending the 3. Can you talk about kind of the confidence you guys have in that and also just your defense as a whole?
Galen first, then we'll go back to Corey.
I just have confidence in our coaching staff and the game plan they have for us to have success defending the 3-point line. I know as a team we carry it. We take a lot of pride in defense, and but I just know I believe in our game plan, so that's what we're going to go by.
Yeah, just reiterating what Galen said. I mean, we have amazing confidence in our defense regarding if it's guarding the 3, the drive, or whatever the case may be. We just have a great amount of confidence in ourselves and what we're doing. I know if me and Galen are on point, because we're the head of the Snakes defensively, so if we're on point, I know all the rest of the guys will follow through and we'll carry out our game plan.
Hi, guys. John Hoover, the Sporting News and the Franchise. If you could describe maybe how Coach Sampson has changed the culture at Houston and really elevated things to a 32-3 record, 31-3 record is just amazing. But when you start talking about the first since Phi Slamma Jamma, that's what all the references are to, how that has been kind of elevated.
Galen first, then Corey.
Like I said, it's always great to be, kind of related back to Phi Slamma Jamma because of what they did and the history they made. So to be compared to them is a blessing, definitely. But we want to make history. We want to live in it. So we want to make our own destiny and just try to do something special that's never been done.
Yeah, and I think Coach Sampson, like everyone already knows, he plays a big part in our success. He's taught us a lot. We've learned so much from him, and he's just taught us a new way how to play basketball. We play with energy that a lot of us didn't know coming into this program. Me for certain, because I didn't know what it took to get here until Coach Sampson just introduced everything to me. So I mean, just the light he shed on basketball in a whole, to me, is I just give him all the credit, honestly.
Brian Smith, Houston Chronicle. Corey, the NCAA posted a video a couple days ago that showed the life of a student athlete, and you tweeted jokingly, obviously delete this, and there were some, but you're far from the other one. There's a lot of reaction to it. What is the life of a student athlete truly like in 2019, specifically for you? Because Kelvin's praised you for going to class and being studious on and on, but there's obviously a different version of that video.
Yeah, I mean, to just mildly put it, it's a lot harder than what the video showed. I'm gonna just say it. I mean, it's a lot more that goes into it than just trying to get sleep, going to class, enjoying your social life, going to practice. I mean, it's a lot more, especially mentally, emotionally, that goes on into everyday life of a student athlete.
Galen, you have 101 career wins at Houston. That's the second most. Can you just, in your wildest dreams, did you ever see that happening when you decided to play here? And then if you could kind of reflect on that and what it means to you.
In a nutshell, no. I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. But I believed in myself, and I believed in Coach Sampson and the vision that he showed me. So I just went in with a blindfold, and I came out just all I ever did was just meet the standard that he set for me. And I followed it, whatever he laid out before me, and by the grace of God, I had the kind of success that I did. What was the second question again?
Just reflecting on it, what it means to you.
But yeah, just looking back at everything and how far that we've come as a program, is really nothing short of a blessing. It's kind of like, I don't know, I can't even put it into words, but our new arena, the fan base. I remember we had to go to frat houses and get people, knock on people's doors, tell them to come to the games. And they'll tell us, oh, yeah, we're coming, just to get us off their doorstep. No, they wasn't coming to the game. Games were still dead, empty. I could hear my mom's voice, come on, Chief, push the ball. Like, it was crazy. But, just seeing, like, I can't even hear it anymore. That's how far we've come. And, Coach Sampson, that's the dude. That's the guy.
I'm not sure which one of you guys, in terms of DeMarcus Stemmons, I'm not sure how y'all play defensively, if one of y'all specifically will be on him, but what you think of him, and then what they do on the defensive end. I think they run a kind of a variation of a 2-3 zone and like to mix it up a little bit. Have y'all seen much of that in terms of how maybe that will affect what you do, or does it affect you at all on the offensive end?
Corey, first, please.
Yeah, we've been watching a lot of film, going over our scouting, our game plan, and what we're going to do. I mean, they have a great team, a lot of great shooters. Stemmons is a very great player. I mean, he does a lot with the ball, off the ball. I mean, he does a lot of great things. They play kind of like a matchup zone. So, I mean, speaking from a shooter standpoint, I love zones. So, I mean, we're kind of preparing for that. So, I mean, we'll be ready, though.
Yeah, piggyback on what Corey said, Simons, he's definitely dynamic with the ball, has a lot of moves, got a real deep bag. But and in regards to the zone, our coaches, they're going to have a game plan for it. We know what it is, but we can't tell that to you guys.
Galen, you mentioned that you had guys who haven't been here asking you questions. You have answers. No one had the answers for you guys last year. What difference do you think that'll make in terms of the nerves and being prepared for what you will see this weekend?
I remember last year, coaches told us to attack it as just another basketball game because none of us have never been on that stage. But in regards to now, we definitely have experience, and we're definitely a pretty poised veteran group. We got an older team, veteran team, and I really think that plays into our favor in regards to any kind of environment or any kind of scenario that might be in front of us.
Anything else for the Cougars of Houston? Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Coach Sampson's up next. As advertised, the head coach of the Cougars is here, Kelvin Sampson. We're going to ask him to make a statement to open the proceedings on his team about being here in Tulsa, and then we'll go to questions. Kelvin, please.
Well, anytime you make the tournament, it's a reward. Always thrilled to see our young kids and how they react to being in the tournament for the first time. We've got 2 freshmen, 3 sophomores that haven't played an NCAA tournament game, so I'm anxious to see, actually 2 sophomores, to see how they handle some things. But I like our team. I've liked our team all year. Once we hit Thanksgiving, you kind of have a little bit of an idea. And then by the time you get to Christmas, those are always kind of milestones for me over the years. Thanksgiving, Christmas. When you hit Christmas, you kind of have an idea whether you have a good team or not. Because you can still improve, but you kind of who you are by then. And I thought we were pretty good. But how you do in close games? We've won a ton of close games. We lost a couple as well. But came out of a tough league. The thing I was most proud of was how we played on the road. Being 8-1 on the road in our league was outstanding for this group. So you go through the regular season and stack it up, and next thing you know, you're in the NCAA tournament, and here we are.
Hey, Kelvin, welcome back. John Hoover, the Sporting News and the Franchise. Houston, obviously a very proud basketball program, tradition-wise, but when you start throwing around terms like first since Phi Slamma Jamma, first time since Phi Slamma Jamma, says a lot. How have you been able to elevate the program to this level, and how have you evolved as a coach getting there to where you're at now?
Well, I've asked that question a lot too. I think there's some dormancy when the Big 8 expanded to the Big 12. I think Houston kind of become a little bit of an orphan. I think they were the only Texas school not to go to the Big 12. They could have easily went with Baylor and Tech and who I was in the Big 12. I should have known who the 4 teams were. A&M, A&M in Texas. And then later when they reconstructed, TCU went in. Houston could have easily been in those groups. But, fans are, they want to connect to something. And when they move conferences, I think they lost a little bit of their fan base. I think just the administration, I don't think, valued basketball enough. And I don't think they invested. And I think that's where it starts. Basketball coaches and players, win games. I know our people that follow us here sick of me saying this, but our administration is the reason why. They stepped up. Before I got there, every 4 years they fired a coach. They didn't change anything. They were going to fire me in 4 years too, and that I wasn't interested in going in that situation. So we had to get some things ironed out, find out what their commitment was. But even then, that's for a year and some change, we played all our home games at Texas Southern University. So it's been tough, but it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every step of this adventure, this journey that we've been on, getting this program back going. But what Coach Lewis did with Elvin Hayes and that group. What he did with the Phi Slamma Jamma era, people can identify with. So there was a history. There was, it had been done. And when something's been done before, it can be done again. It's just a matter of getting the right pieces and right people together, and that's what we did.
Hey, Kelvin, Mark Berman from Fox Houston. I need to read you some stuff that Ron Hunter said prior to you coming out here. He said that, I love Kelvin. When I was 6 years old, I think Kelvin was 60. I grew up wanting to be Kelvin. When your grandfather's coaching at the other end over there, I got to ask for permission for everything. He said he knows you, that you don't know that he refers to you as Grandpa. So before the game, when y'all shake hands, he's going to say, Grandpa, I love you. What do you think about all that?
Well, I am a grandfather, and actually a very proud one. I hope my granddaughter's as proud of her grandfather as I am my granddaughter. Little Maisie Jade, very proud of her. You want something else? It's not good enough for you, Mark? That's all I got.
We're here, we're at the AP, and we're here. 3, go.
Bill Haston, Tulsa World. Kelvin, during your 6 years in the NBA, I guess it's a two-part deal. Number one, was it always your intent to come back to college basketball? And number two, what was your ultimate takeaway from the NBA? I mean, was it like going to grad school or getting your master's in basketball?
No. Well, the first part is an easy answer. No, it was never my intent to come back to college. I was interviewing for some head coaching jobs, and just because you interview for the job, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you may decide that you're interviewing them too. There's some jobs that, that's a tough one there. Let's move on down the road and let's see if we can wait for a better one. So there's always an assumption when you interview for jobs you didn't get it. But there were some tough ones, but I wanted one where we could have a chance to build, whether it's through the draft or free agency. And I enjoyed talking to presidents, owners about the future of their franchises and how we could build the organization around the best players. And that's where I wanted to be a head coach in the NBA. But I learned a lot in the NBA. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I didn't think I was a good enough coach to help an NBA team win a game when I first got to that league. I think my hello moment was when I was in San Antonio with Pop and Mike Budenhauser and Brett Brown and Donnie Newman were doing all the scouting reports. And it's so, when you've been a head coach your whole career, you've never really seen another guy do it. I was head coach when I was really young, so I had to experiment and fail and fail and fail and figure it out. But just the freedom, the delegation that Pop gave his assistants and how they came up with how to guard actions on their own. It was their decision. That jumped out at me. I'd never done that before. I made all the decisions. And then just the multiple ways to do things, how to guard mid-pick and rolls. In the NBA, you better be able to guard pick and rolls somewhere. Slot, middle, side, step-ups. I didn't know about a lot of that stuff. We had trouble guarding pick and roll. We just went zone. I didn't know how to adjust the way those guys did. Then I said, "Wow, man, I got a lot to learn. These guys are way smarter than I am." And then when I got to Milwaukee, Scott Skiles, who we were connected through our Michigan State days with Judd Heathcote. Scott was a brilliant tactician. He really was. I've read where people were brilliant tacticians, but I'd never seen one. I never worked with a brilliant tactician, but he was. He lived for the last 2 minutes in an NBA game. That's one of the reasons I wanted to be an NBA coach. I wanted to coach those last 2 minutes. I loved that. But Scott knew how to do NBA stuff, how much film to watch, how little film to watch. In the NBA, it's such a long season, and you're grinding. I know you guys have Billy Donovan here in this state. I'm sure Billy went through the same thing. How much to do, how little. I had to go through all that. But I was becoming addicted to that. And then when I went to the Rockets with Kevin McHale, Kevin was unbelievable to me. I was the associate head coach, so I got to assign all the scouting reports. I was allowed to do a lot of the head coaching things with the Rockets. And Kevin was great about delegation. He gave me a lot of freedom, a lot of rope to do things that I had learned just coaching against the other teams in the league, how they did things. And so that's kind of where I was headed. I was learning. I would say I don't know how to compare it to a master's degree or anything, but I know it made me it made me better, and I appreciate everybody that I coached in the NBA with, especially Greg Popovich, Scott Skiles, and Kevin McHale.
We're a little more past halfway of this session. We have 2 questions up. Go, please.
Yeah, Cliff Brunt, Associated Press. You talked about the dormancy of the program at one point, administration maybe not paying as much attention to the program as maybe it could have, playing at another school's arena, those kinds of things that work against your program. With all of those things being said, how did you sell these young people on coming to the University of Houston and being a part of turning it around?
That's a great question. I don't think you understand the depth of how good a question that is, because you would have had to been there. When we brought kids on campus, we didn't have anywhere to take them. When a kid comes, when recruiting a young man, he's taken other visits to other schools. So when he comes to your school, he's going to compare. It's just like if you went on a job interview, you're going to compare it to the job you have or a job you had, and it's really what it is. It's an interview with a young man. And there was a lot of frustration. I got frustrated with people. I said, what are we doing here? You guys say you want to win, but what are you doing to win? And I know a lot of people were probably frustrated with me, because there was a lot of, I don't know if demands is the right word, but we kept asking. We kept saying that we have to do this. And I think the worst thing you can say to someone, this is what we've always done, especially when you haven't had success. Well, that's what you've always done. Well, let's stop right there. Let's evaluate this, what you just said. So we had to change attitudes. But before you can change attitudes, you have to change behavior. And I think that was the biggest thing at Houston, is changing the behavior. At the top of the league was Cincinnati, and at the time, Larry Brown was at SMU, was doing great. Connecticut, tremendous conference. That's one of the things that drew me to the job, was the top of the league. I didn't look anywhere but the top, because that's where you want to be. You want to be at the top of the league. You don't go to a league to be at the bottom, but I always had the sense that there was a acceptance of who we are, without a burning desire to be better than that. And that's where you can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to stick your neck out there. And you got to fight for something a little bit. But when we brought kids on campus, we just had nowhere to take them. But Mac Rhodes got that practice facility going. He deserves a lot of credit for that. We got that going. I wanted that construction fence up today. I wanted those bulldozers and those machines in there today. That thing needed to be dug. Those kids that were selling that vision you're asking about, they need to see that. You can talk all you want, but they need to see it. They need to feel it. They need to know that this is going to change. The guy that bought into the vision first was Galen Robinson. He bought into a vision when there's nothing to see. There was nothing to see. Just here's what Coach Sampson said, and he could have taken it and ran with it, or he could have, he visited Georgetown, he visited TCU. I knew who he was visiting. I know what they had and what we had. We didn't have what those schools had. We didn't have anything. But we had a vision. And I appreciated him for buying into it.
We have under 3 minutes to go. We have 2 questions up. Go.
Kelvin Bryan, Smith Houston Chronicle. You were talking a couple days ago about how you'd like to see the NCAA make so much money off these tournaments, and you've been doing it for so long, and how you would like to see players and their families be able to attend more. Anything come to mind for any of your current players where their families weren't able to make it? And what would you like to see the NCAA do to make sure that the families can afford to watch their sons and daughters play in the NCAA tournament?
Well, anytime you talk about that, Brian, it always goes back to the monitoring process, which I think has to go through the school. But somehow, and it's not just it's not money, it's travel and hotel rooms. I had one of my kids, I'm not going to mention who it is, his parents would like to come, and the only way they could come would be to drive. And and then they'd have to get a hotel room, possibly for, if they came in on Friday, they would be here Friday and Saturday night. For a lot of people, that's not a big deal, but that's a big deal for that family. They don't have the money to do that. So they would have to decide how they would do it. And I've had families ask me, can I sleep on my son's floor in his room? Think about that now. You know, well, that's my life. That's not unusual for me. Can I sleep on his floor? Because they don't have the money to pay for a room. But when you look around at how big this industry has become, why can't we figure that out? I'm not saying give them this or give them that. I'm saying that when young men get to the NCAA tournament, let's find a way to get their parents and their brothers and sisters a plane ticket and a hotel room. I don't think that's asking too much.
Final question, go.
Calvin, you talk about some assistants you've worked with and assistants under Pop, et cetera. How did the NBA change your experience with assistants, and what do you do with and Alvin Brooks and those guys who work with you?
No, that was another thing, Jerome. It's I wish obviously not the way I did it, obviously, but I wish every college coach could take a sabbatical. Just step back a year and go spend a year in the NBA following a coaching staff to see how they do things. But it's got to be a head coach. You know, I think I'm a lot more, I delegate more, I trust more, I give more responsibility, I prepare them a little better. I've had a lot of assistants going to become head coaches. But you can always get better. You can always do better, you know, and that's, you know, as you get to a certain point in your career, you know, you can see where you're headed here now, you know, and that's, you know, and just being able to, you know, give back to the game, you know, as much as you can, but help those people around you. I could tell. I didn't know Brett Brown and Mike Budenholzer before I got. Donnie Newman was my assistant at Washington State for 5 years, so I knew Donnie. But I could tell Mike Budenholzer was a head coach. I could tell that Brett was. I worked with Lionel Hollins in Milwaukee. Lionel was a head coach. Those guys acted like head coaches. And then I went back, when I got back to college, I said, I want my assistant coaches to act like head coaches, but work like assistant coaches. And that's kind of what the culture that we've established here at Houston. I want them all to think and act like head coaches, but work like assistant coaches.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay,
Best of luck
guys.
tomorrow. Iowa State is next, 3:30. Not anymore. 44, they're down 5 now. I am. You? Good. That's a good gig. Yesterday at 5. Welcome. Welcome. Good. Good. Our 3:30 segment features the Cyclones of Iowa State University. They're number 6 seed in the Midwest region. They are the Big 12 Conference Tournament champions. They'll play number 11, Ohio State, in Friday's second game. The head coach is Steve Prohm. The men's basketball contact is Matt Schultz. And we're going to open up for questions whenever we have one.
Mariel, this is for you from a very high source. What have you been able to tell your teammates about what you were able to do at Virginia and how that is related to success at Iowa State?
I've just been telling these guys that we have to bring energy, stay together, and really just take every moment, just take it in and just have fun. I think when we're having fun and being together, I think we're hard to beat. So we just got to keep that up.
Nick, the success that you were able to experience a couple of years ago with this team, how's that helped you personally, and what have you been able to tell your guys about what it takes to get to the Sweet 16?
That group of guys, we had really great senior leadership, and I think that's one thing that me and Mar try to focus on as seniors on this team, and I think Lindell stepped up with that great, just making sure that we're together. When we're together, we're a really tough team to beat. I think we gotta stick to it and stick to each other when times get tough through the ups and downs.
Mariel, if you would talk a little bit about what you've seen from Ohio State and what you remember in the games you played against Ohio State when you were at Virginia.
Well, what we've seen is they have a pretty dominant big man, so that's been one of our main focuses this week, of making it tough for him. And in my past experience, it was a whole totally different team. Their guard play was a lot more. They focused on that a lot more when I played them back in Virginia. So it's a different team. So not really much I could take from those Virginia games.
Your turn, Lindell. Kansas City was a great weekend for Iowa State, and it seemed like the smile on your face was a little bit bigger through that whole stretch. And I don't think it was just about winning. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, we came together as a team. You know, everybody stuck together, and I was proud of that because, you know, a couple of weeks back we were kind of, you know, separate, and, you know, that's what led to our losing drought. But you know, everybody came together, and, you know, everybody stepped up in a big way, and, you know, contributed what they had to contribute, and you know, that's the main thing why I was so happy.
This is to Lindell and to Mariel. So March Madness is, you know, this time of the year is awesome in the United States. What's going on in Canada right now related to March Madness? What does it mean to the two of you and to your families and fan bases back in Canada?
Lindell first, please.
Well, it means a lot, you know, just us getting the opportunity, you know, to be from Canada and coming to the U.S. and playing, you know, March Madness is great. I know our people back home are, you know, watching, all supporting us through the whole thing. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what else is going on back in Canada right now, but yeah, I know everybody back home is supporting us for sure.
Yeah, like Lindell said, I think we got a pretty big support group in Canada just because we're from two different places. And I'm sure both of our cities are representing us the right way. And I mean, really, I think having two Canadians on our team that have a big impact on this program, it really helps our support group. So I think we have a good number of support system back there.
Anything else for the Cyclones of Iowa State? All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Good luck tomorrow. Head coach will be up at 3:45 sharp.
State questions from administration.
As advertised, the head coach of the Cyclones is here, Steve Prohm. We're going to ask him to make a statement on his team being here in Tulsa, and then we'll go to questions. Steve, please.
First off, it's just great to be here, and thanks to the city of Tulsa and the NCAA. It's a blessing to be a part of this tournament, and obviously really looking forward to a great weekend. Excited for our challenge tomorrow night against Ohio State, and open up for questions.
All the way in the back. Thank you.
Steve, what were some of the things that you can think of off the top of your head in the conference tournament that clicked so well to get on the roll that your team got on?
I just think if you look at our defensive numbers, I think we got back. I think in that stretch we played, really 3/4 of the season we played really well. The first 25 games, we were 19-6. It was really the last 6 games. We went 1-5, but our defensive numbers were really poor, especially the three-point line. We were 42% defensive field goal percentage. In Kansas City, we were 39% from the field, 29 from 3, +1 rebound, and gave up 63 points a game. That's why we were very, very successful down there. And so we've got to hopefully transcend that to Tulsa now this weekend and do it on the defensive end. But guys were connected, played the right way, selfless on offense. But defense, we had an identity on defense again.
Go ahead.
Just if I could follow up, if you would talk specifically about Ohio State and what you see from them and what your biggest concerns are about Ohio State.
Well, Chris has obviously had a lot of success, at Butler and then his first 2 years there at Ohio State. I think the biggest concern, the great thing is right away when you see Ohio State, I think it catches your guys' attention right away. Big Ten, obviously great respect for that league and for their program. But Caleb Wesson is number one. That's what people talk about, the size, the physicality, ability to score. How are you going to defend him? You have to make a decision on that. But they also got some other guys, I think, that are playing really well right now. Woods is playing terrific. C.J. Jackson's playing really well. And so, we've got to do a really good job on those guys. We can't get spread out. Defensively, we've got to have a great identity again. We've got to guard the post. We've got to be great post defense, ball screen defense, and finish plays. But Caleb's the big key, but I think they've got some other pieces around that have some experience from a really good team last year, like I touched on with Andre and CJ, that we've got to do a great job with those guys as well.
How did winning the Big 12 tournament by winning games in different ways? You shot great the first game, and then you couldn't make shots really a lot the other games, but you've toughed it out. How important is that heading into the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think one of the moments, the great part of the Kansas State game was we're down 5 with 3 minutes to go, and we called timeout, and we were able to come out, and Nick gets fouled, makes 2 free throws. But I think it shows our guys, whatever the position we are in this tournament, we just got to keep playing. We got to keep grounded, stay focused on the next 4 minutes, stay focused defensively, and then the offense will come. And like you said, I think we touched on, we won the Baylor game a certain way. And I thought we guarded well, but we were really good offensive against them. Kansas State, the second half, it was just a fist fight. And then Kansas, it was a little bit of both. But I do think we won a lot of different ways. It shows us that we can win different ways. And in tournament play, you're going to have to play in the half court at some point. And so we've got to be dialed into not just offensive execution half court, but defensive execution. But I think the guys have great confidence. And then obviously playing against Ohio State, I think our vision and focus will be really good, which is important in a tournament setting.
Anything else for the head coach?
You got anything, James? You sure?
Okay, practice awaits. Thank you very much, and
Thanks.
best of luck, Steve. Arizona State student athletes will be up at 4:15 sharp. 4:15. See you later. Excuse me? Yeah, it is. It is. Can't sit in the first row. I can't see you. 4:15 slots reserved for the Arizona University Sun Devils. They are the number 11 seed in the West region. They're out of the Pacific 12 Conference. They will play number 6 Buffalo in Friday's second game, approximately 2:50. The men's basketball contact is Doug Tamaro. The head coach is Bobby Hurley. The student body up here is Remy Martin and Zylan Cheatham. We are ready for questions at any time. Start right there.
Jorge Rubino, Devils Digest. Question to either of you guys. Just talk about how crazy the last 24 hours have been. You know, emotional win against St. John's, landing here at 4 o'clock in the morning, and 12 hours after you land, you already got practice.
Remy, you first, please.
It's been very exciting. I mean, just to experience this my sophomore year as well. It's just been a great experience, man, winning and advancing, just the satisfaction of just winning and knowing that your season's still going. It's a great feeling, great accomplishment. And, you know, obviously that we're our eyes are on the prize, and we're definitely trying to continue to win, but we're also absorbing everything that comes with it.
I mean, to obviously accomplish a win like that, to celebrate it with your guys, but hours after that, get back on the plane and lock into the next task. I'd say it's pretty much been an emotional roller coaster, but you have to embrace your wins. You have to enjoy it, live in the moment, but at the same time, you got to stay focused on the task at hand.
To kind of dovetail off that, what was the most difficult part of that quick turnaround? I think it was like a 16 to 20 hour turnaround. And when did you guys get in? What was the most difficult part of this?
Zylan, you first this time.
I didn't actually get into my hotel bed until about, I want to say like 5 in the morning. But I say the most tough part about it was just leaving straight from the game. Your bags are already packed. You go straight to the airport and you're getting straight back on the road. But on the flip side of that, it's like our fans and our dancing and cheer team and our band, they did such a good job of keeping us in positive spirits, just keeping us happy about when we got to the airport. They're there, they're cheering for us. And it's stuff like that you just have to embrace and look at it as part of the process.
Really, this is for either of you guys. When you're scouting Buffalo and looking at Buffalo, what jumps out at them what do they do that can really pose challenges for you guys?
Remy, you first, please.
We haven't got to that yet, but we know that they're going to go out and play hard as they can. They're a great team. We know that their record speaks for itself. They're a winning team, so we know that they're going to come out and play hard, and it's going to be a fun game.
I'd say aside of the X and O's part of it, just considering they're considered a mid-major conference, and they're coming off of 12 straight wins and stuff like that. I've actually been a part of that mid-major conference that you want to be considered the top of the top. So we know they're going to come out extremely hungry. Now to get to the X and O's part, I mean, they're a really disciplined team. They don't make many mistakes. They capitalize off of mistakes, and we got to clean up some turnovers. And like I said, we know we're going to get their best shot, but we got to make sure we match their intensity.
Cheerson Susel, KPNX. This is for you, Remy. It seems like with this team on any given night, somebody different might step up and have a fantastic game. For you personally, kind of in and out of the game last night, does it make you, I don't know if comfort's the right word, maybe give you more confidence knowing that if you do have to sit down at this point with just your health condition, that your guys have it? Yeah, I mean, our guys, we've been through so much adversity, on and off the court. We're so tight-knit that I know even when I'm not playing my best game, that somebody like, Lou, Rob, or Melo, anybody could step up. And that's the great thing about our team is that there's no individuals. We're all together. When one falls, the other one's there to pick them up. So that's the greatness of our team, and I'm just happy to be a part of the team and have guys like that are players. They pick me up when I'm not having my best game, and who knows, I might have a good game tomorrow.
Stay here.
Just going off that, I guess for either one of you, can you talk about what Lou did last night, and I think really this morning he kind of got some more national recognition finally, not just people in Arizona recognizing it.
Silent, what do you think?
At this point, nothing he does really surprises me. I mean, I've seen the work that he put in. I mean, I remember the first workout I ever worked out with him, and he was just doing things that you don't really see freshmen do. And I've been around for, this is my 5th year, so it's just things you never really see freshmen do. So not that I was expecting him to have a game like that, but the fact that he did is just compliments to the work he put in, the confidence he has in himself, and the confidence Bobby gives us as players.
He's a beast.
Facts.
This is once again for both of you guys. Obviously, a big storyline with this game is Bobby going against his former assistant with Nate Oates. Has he talked about that at all, or do you see him maybe a little extra emotional, anything like that?
Remy, you're first, please.
No, it's all about the team. This is about us, our future, and it's just all about the team, what we need to do to be successful. It's not about him. He's never been a me guy. So, everything that he says or does is for all of us.
To kind of piggyback off of that, I mean, he's done a really good job in kind of making it our journey as opposed to his. That was his message. Just don't really get too far into the whole emotional impact that, this game could have on me or something like that. He was just like, I want you guys to stay focused. He's like, I've already did what I did in college, and I've made my journey. It's you guys' turn. So he's doing a really good job in trying to make it not about himself.
Anything else for the student athletes of Arizona State? All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Best of luck. Good luck. See you tomorrow. Thanks. Okay. As advertised, the head coach of Arizona State is here, Bobby Hurley. We're going to ask him to make a statement on his team about getting to Tulsa, how they got to Tulsa. Then we'll open up for questions. Bobby, please.
Yeah, it was just an electric night last night. You know, kind of doesn't feel like yesterday ended in some ways, considering all the media after and then the travel and getting in here at 4 this morning. But the alternative is far worse. So we're very excited to be here. The guys were able to get a lot of rest today, and today for us is just about recovery and trying to get fresh mentally and physically, and and that's what it's about today for us.
First question's on the left, then we go here.
Hey, Bobby, John Scott, Spectrum News, Buffalo. What was your reaction? I know you and Nate spoke Sunday, but what was your reaction knowing this is now a reality facing Nate and your former team?
Well, I mean, it was tense for us going in, that Sunday, leading into Selection Sunday, and just a lot of conversations, our administrators, my wife, my brother, and talking to my brother on the phone. He was like, I have a feeling that they're going to, Buffalo is in that 6 range, and I see you as an 11 seed, and I don't think Dan thought we'd be in the play-in game, but he thought that there could be a chance that this might happen. So, I gave it some thought then, but then as the show proceeded, I knew that what we had done this year and the wins that we had and our record in the league, and that we'd be in the field, and spots were limited at that moment. So I knew that something might be in the works there when I saw that.
Cheerson Susel, KPNX. Bobby, last night you mentioned that, maybe aside from your brother's games, you've watched more Buffalo games than any other team. How well do you feel like you know this team, and is it sort of an advantage just because, it's a team you keep your eye on?
I mean, I've watched, and again, it's not like I'm in the blind as far as not watching Buffalo, so it's helpful in that regard. But, when the ball goes up, it's, they have a lot of winners in their locker room. They're a team that's won 31 games, and they're a mid-major that doesn't play like it. They don't look like it. They have all the ingredients, of a top team. And so, we're going to have our hands full. It's going to be, we're going to have to, they're not going to back out of a game, man. You got to beat Buffalo. They're not just going to, give in to you at any point.
Bobby Timmering, CBS Phoenix. The tournament has a history of pairing coaches against their former assistants. They obviously seem to like that. Obviously, they feel fans like that. I get the sense, though, over time, coaches really don't care for that. Could you kind of just address why that's difficult for a coach to go up against his former team, or maybe more specifically, a former assistant? Why is that hard? Why don't coaches enjoy that so much?
Because I got such great memories, at Buffalo, my 2 years. I still vividly remember, the confetti falling in Cleveland for the first time there, and doing it with people, that I respect and like Nate Oates, and to have an opportunity to go to a tournament, and then it's the personal relationship. Nate and I, when we're on the road recruiting, we hope that we're in the same city so we could get together. We speak frequently, and we root for each other. So anytime you have to go against that team, it's not the greatest scenario. But then as a coach, you think about all the work you put in and how hard your players work July through the fall, and all these battles you're in during the season to even get yourself in a position to be in this tournament. And then once you're here, it's everything goes out the window, and you're just trying to compete like heck to advance and make your season more special. So that's where my thoughts are. And my thoughts are only with like Remy Martin, Lou Dort, Zylan Cheatham, and the guys that I'm bringing to battle tomorrow.
In the back, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby. Josh Reed with the CBS affiliate in Buffalo. What's up, Josh? When you hired Nate, he was a high school coach. What did you see in him when you hired him that you thought, this guy could do something someday?
I'm a talent evaluator. I could recognize talent, and Nate, it's immediate. His passion for basketball was something I was drawn to, and it's genuine. And when we were recruiting E.C. Matthews, and I was an assistant at Rhode Island, I got to go visit Nate and watch how he conducted his practices, how, he had a practice plan and it was organized. And, he's coaching tough kids from the inner city of Detroit, and you could visually see the respect that he got from all those players. So, I mean, I instantly knew that he was he was a really good coach. And me going into Buffalo, I had a couple of years of assistant coaching experience. I had a lifetime of basketball experience, but Nate also had 10 years as a high school coach. And my dad, being a high school coach for 45 years, it was something that I respected what he was doing, and I thought he deserved an opportunity, and he was hungry to do it. Man, he really recruited. He got after it. He developed relationships with kids we were recruiting. He was great tactically, always great ideas, and he was good on the floor. So, I couldn't have done any better than to hire Nate Oates.
Bobby, Rachel Lindsay from the Buffalo News. Yeah. When you left for Arizona State, did you recommend Nate, as your replacement? And if he had not been the replacement, would you have wanted him on your staff at Arizona State?
Well, yeah. It was, when I decided to take the Arizona State job, I told Nate that, I think that he should aggressively try and get the job, that he deserved the job, that he would do phenomenal, and to go after it confidently. I think the players that we had a really good core of talent in the locker room that was coming back, and so I think it made sense for Danny White to make that move. It was a great decision on his part to keep Nate. But I told Nate if you don't get it, that there's a spot open for you with me on the staff at Arizona State.
We're over here on the left. Number 2 is on the aisle. 3 is here. 4 is here. Go, please.
Bobby, Heather Prusak from the NBC station in Buffalo. Nate talks so much about how grateful he is that you gave him his shot at Division I coaching. What's it like to hear him have such gratitude for you still?
Well, I think we share, mutual respect and friendship, and, it's not easy to get your foot in the door in this business. I mean, I'm fortunate to have like a storied basketball playing career, which helped open doors, and, there are a lot of talented people out there that don't get the opportunity, and so we were able to recognize that, and Nate worked his butt off to really put himself in a position to want to be a college coach, assistant coach, and he's made the most of it.
Bobby, Doug Howler with The Athletic. Can you give us an idea of just what the plane ride was like on the way back? Were the assistants looking at film, breaking down just how that worked? Yeah, I mean, everyone was just had their own computer and were watching whatever Buffalo games they chose to watch. I didn't mandate anyone to watch a particular game. I had my set of games I was watching. Otherwise, the plane was quiet. We expended a lot of energy. The guys were, I believe, sleeping or had their headphones on, just listening to music.
Adam Jardy with the Columbus Dispatch. I know he's obviously had the back injury, but what is Mickey Mitchell's status with the team, both now and going forward?
Yeah, Mickey was at our house on Sunday for the selection show party, and he's still a part of what we're doing. It's he's had some setbacks with it, and we're trying to get him to a point where he's 100%, and he's just had trouble, getting there this year. He's had a lot of wear and tear, over the years, both playing basketball and football, and we're hopeful we get Mickey to 100% healthy, and then when we get there, then we could focus on basketball.
We have about 5 minutes to go. We're going to go second row, back row, first row. Go.
Holder Rubino, Devils Digest. Bobby, when you look at the game against St. John's and the high number of turnovers, was it really just a matter of Remy Martin not being 100% and not only playing 23 minutes, or are there some other underlying factors?
Yeah, I think when you generate that type of lead, sometimes you let your guard down some, and we got a little careless with the basketball, and you also have a team that's desperate, playing for their season, and they have some quick twitch athletes. St. John's plays 5 guys that are around 6'5" that can move around and shoot passing lanes, and they did a great job of turning people over before us, but we have to do better at that. Remy is usually a one-man press break. He's so fast and good with the ball, and it just wasn't quite up for that challenge yesterday. Hopefully, a little more time to get healthy, that he'll be better tomorrow night.
Bobby, Nate fondly recalls some pickup games that you guys would have when you were at UB, and he said that it was really competitive. What do you recall about some of those times?
Yeah, and where my game is at right now, I'd almost like to forget, because I'd like to remember back to when I was actually good. But we did play at 6 a.m. hoops, and I remember it. And I think there was a D2 player that was playing with us, and he knew my rep, and I was like, I don't know, 39. It was 43 or 44, and he's trying to go at me like I was 24. So, kind of pushed me really, and my competitive juices kicked in, and I stole the ball at half court, and he chased me down. Most times in pickup, you just let the guy go and lay it in, and so I had to go to find another gear, and I ended up pulling my hamstring. So that was like one of the last times I really competitively tried to play basketball was in Buffalo.
Right down here, the first row.
And Nate said that when he was building the program at UB and really making it his own, how did he lean on you and your brother, when he was, I guess, constructing his own vision for the program?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as much as the foundation was there from what we did for 2 years. There were obstacles. He had a couple of key guys leave the program, and he had to go in another direction. I think he hired a very good staff too, and his assistants have done a good job of getting players. And then Nate went out of the region and found Massenburg, which was a huge get for Buffalo.
Okay, we get everybody in? Excellent.
All right, guys,
Bobby, thank you very much. Good luck. All right, good luck. We'll see you tomorrow. Ohio State is in next at 5 o'clock. Ohio State, 5 o'clock. Our final team today is the Ohio State University Buckeyes. They are the number 11 seed in the Midwest region. They are out of the Big Ten Conference. They will play number 6, Iowa State, in Friday's final game. The men's basketball contact is Dan Wallenberg. The head coach is Chris Holtmann, who will come up here after these gentlemen are finished. And these gentlemen are C.J. Jackson and Keyshawn Woods. And we are ready for questions at any time. We're going to start in the back. Thank you.
Ron Stokes, the fan out of Columbus. CJ, and this is a question for both you and Keyshawn. How different is it for you, CJ, coming in as a senior this year as compared to last year to the NCAA tournament, and also you, Keyshawn, about your experience about being a Buckeye and playing in the tournament?
Yeah, it's a little different just because I got a year under my belt. Last year I didn't really know what to expect, and we were just happy to be here. And this year, you know, we made the tournament, and we're excited about that, but we're here to win some games.
Being here as a Buckeye, great feeling. It's a blessing. You know, it's my first time, like, really being with a guaranteed spot. And I'm just happy to be here, like CJ said, knowing that we in and we get to compete and continue to play.
Stay in the back. Go.
What challenges do you guys see from backcourt of Iowa State? They play 4 guards a lot, and how do you guys plan to match up?
Keyshawn, you start us off, please.
We know they are a great offensive team, and they play really, really fast. They got shooters. They got pretty much got every piece that that you can have on a basketball team. But for us, we just got to bring our defense on the road, and our defense is going to lead us to a win, to win this game. And as long as we do live up to our defensive principles and we stick to those, we'll be fine.
Yeah, like Keyshawn said, we just got to make sure we bring our defensive hat tomorrow, be ready for anything. We know offensively they play well together. They have really good chemistry, and they've had an unbelievable year, especially in the Big 12. So we just got to come ready and prepared and prepare our game plan for the rest of tonight and tomorrow, and we should be ready.
Colin Gadan, Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio. How big was that Indiana game, and just in terms of momentum for you guys? Of course, we all knew that it was big for getting into the tournament and stuff, but just from a personal level.
CJ, you're first, please.
I think it was huge for us. Just, you know, we had all our pieces back after a couple weeks, and we was able to beat a really good Indiana team who was really hot at the end of the season. And it kind of showed what we can do, especially late here in the season. We really needed that for momentum coming into postseason.
Like CJ said, the most important part about that, we had our pieces. We had all our pieces, and you know, just to see all of us fight, you know, really excited for all of us playing together like a team and being really, really connected. That game was what was most important to all of us, and it showed. And with us getting that win, you know, it got us here to where we're at now.
Anything else for the Buckeyes of Ohio State? Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much, and best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Head coach will be up at 5:15 sharp. Thank you. Head coach of the Buckeyes is with us, Chris Holtmann. We're going to ask Chris to start off with a statement on his ball club being here in Tulsa. Then we'll go to questions. Chris, please.
Okay, excited about obviously tomorrow night, late game. We're playing a terrific Iowa State team who's had an outstanding year. Steve and his team obviously have been playing really well here of late. We are excited, like I said, about the opportunity. I think we've had some really good moments of play here in the last couple weeks, really in the last week and a half. So going to be a great challenge, but most of these games this time of year are. So.
First question, right there in the aisle. Thank you.
Hey.
Chris, if you would talk about the significance of consecutive years in the NCAA tournament and just how a program shoots to try and be in the tournament more often than not.
Well, Paul, I think it's really important for your program as when you take over, as you're trying to kind of grow it in the way that you and your staff would like for it to be. I think you want kids who are excited about playing this time of year and have that as a goal, and not only playing but advancing and moving forward and playing as long as possible. We always talk about wanting to recruit kids that want to play for championships, and I think that's going to be really important for us as we move forward. We've obviously got a lot of young guys on our team. That's been well documented. I think having those guys get some experience last year, although we have some of those young guys who didn't play a whole lot in last year's 2 games. They're going to play a lot in this year's game, but having our young guys that are currently on our roster play, I think, can only help us moving forward. But it's really, really important. Can't overstate how important it is to be able to start off these 2 years being in the tournament.
Doug Haller with The Athletic. Chris, just a few minutes ago, Bobby Hurley was up there sitting down talking about the emotions of going against his former school.
Yeah.
You went through that last year when you played Butler. Can you just kind of explain the emotions that a coach goes through playing the school where he built something just a few years before?
It's miserable. It's miserable. It was the worst coaching experience of my life. And I hate to overstate it, but I'm really not. That was pretty fresh, given I think there's been, 3 or 4 years? 4 years. So it's different. But you still feel tied in a lot of ways emotionally to the program and to the school. Our staff was 6 months removed, really. So the timing of it was miserable. You have very conflicted feelings. You feel compelled to prepare your current team as well as possible, and yet at the same time, in our case, we had recruited all those guys, and it's just it's a conflicted feeling, and I think you wouldn't be human if that wouldn't be the case. The good thing for him is there's been some separation of years, and I don't know how many players that he recruited, but obviously he recruited the coach, and there's some emotional ties there.
Yeah, hi, Chris. Garen Emick from the Tulsa World. We ask the basketball coach over at Oklahoma all the time about managing in the shadow of a football giant. And I know you've covered this ground with probably your beat writers up in Columbus, but while you're here, I'd like to ask how your philosophy on that and how you've accepted that challenge, especially coming from Butler, where obviously basketball maybe was on a different plane in terms of the athletic department. Are you telling me we're at a football school? I've heard that. Okay. I'm not going to say.
Breaking news.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting. I do think there's some real. You're talking about Lon. You've talked to Lon about that. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's a different, right? It's different. And as you mentioned, Butler, where it was driven really in a lot of ways by men's basketball. It's a dynamic that, in a lot of ways, I've really enjoyed seeing a program that has been so successful for so long, and I've kind of we've tried to really embrace that and use it for what we believe the strengths that it can be for our program. I think that anytime you are, working alongside programs that have achieved excellence, that can be inspiring, encouraging. That can be a real positive thing, and that's how we've chosen to look at it, and that's how we'll continue to do that. And we've really enjoyed it. Certainly, it's different. The passion, in some ways, are different when, and I get that, and I understand that. And I think I had a decent understanding of it going in, but it's once you're in it, you recognize it for what it is, and we've kind of chosen to embrace it.
Have you embraced it to the point where you use that in terms of recruiting? I mean, I know that the guys at OU, for instance,
sure,
will gladly show off, the Switzer
Sure.
Center and the stadium on fall afternoons and that kind of thing. Is that something that you do up in Columbus?
I think part of embracing it is in fact that. It is showing, whether it's facilities or, there have been a number of times where we've had recruits spend time with Urban in the past, and we'll do it with Ryan in the future. So absolutely, I think that's part of it. Our staffs have collaborated on things, talked about recruiting a lot. There have been some football, basketball recruits that we've spent time with. So it has been a collaborative thing. It's going to continue to be that. We've got a tremendous AD in Gene Smith, who I think recognizes, as we all do, how important football is. But also, I think he has an appreciation for what we can be as a basketball program, and that's all you can ask for.
Chris, if you would, and you've talked to us in Columbus about it, but having a guy like Keyshawn Woods as a senior, playing the way he has as of late, and does that kind of make you think that it's a guy that sees where his career is and doesn't want it to end any sooner than it has to?
Yeah, I think there's been, and we've talked about this, I think there's been tremendous value in just that, what you said. Him being a guy who is one of our better players, who his goal from day one has been, how do I get to the tournament? And that's been his focus, and that's been his mindset. And he understands that what happens next in terms of his future, he'll continue to play. But really, his focus has been, how do I get our team to the tournament? And he's been successful in doing that. And obviously, he wants to stay here as long as possible. So, it's encouraged us to maybe look at that type of a young man in his, in another recruiting class. Because I think the addition of him, it's different. This group needed some experience in a lot of ways. It was imperative, but he's had that mindset and that approach has had great value for us.
Hi, Chris. Colin Gannan, SGSR. Your team played a Gonzaga team last year in the round of 32 that was coming off of a WCC title. Iowa State, of course, coming off a Big 12 tournament title this year. Is there anything different or special that you tell your teams in preparation for a team that is on a streak or coming off of a conference title?
I think you just have to recognize how much confidence they're playing with right now, and I think it means it's important for us to have a good start. We did not have a great start in the Gonzaga game. We were fortunate to climb back and actually take the lead in the second half. But I do think the reality is they're playing as good as a handful of teams in the country. They are. And we know the environment is going to be very much a road environment. And we expect that, given how well they travel and the location. So we'll need to be good. We'll need to be good from the start.
Anything else for the head coach of Ohio State?
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chris, and best of luck.